I thought how the Sixers defended Harden was the most interesting part of that game. And Kyle asked Doc a good question before the game, like, okay, KD and Kyrie aren't suiting up in this game, but how would you decide to deploy Ben Simmons? Because if you really look at the Sixers right now, there's a major drop-off in that starting lineup defensively after Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
So you have to use him wisely. And Doc talked about how, okay, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a foul drawing element. There's we want him fresh for the fourth quarter element. What do the other guys, how do they match up against the other great players? And we didn't really get a chance to see it. Just thinking about that, like, Brooklyn's going to be a bitch to match up against.
Yeah.
In the play.
Well, I mean, Doc talked about resting him. You're not going to have that opportunity if you face him with all three stars. I thought it was interesting, Doc, and like we sort of predicted this because he's done it before. But he came out and he didn't. Danny Green defended him for most of the first half. Him being Harden, and I get where Doc's coming from in terms of conserving energy and in terms of conserving fouls.
Thing, I think.
But Ben's pretty good at staying out of foul trouble, I feel like. And it's not like those points in the second half are worth any more than the points in the first half. Like I probably, if you ask me, I probably would have given Simmons a chance to at least defend some of them in the first half, see whether or not he could do it without getting into foul trouble. And I mean, energy isn't really something I worry about with Simmons either. Like he's pretty much a machine in that regard. I think Doc might have been a little conservative in the first half with Simmons on Harden. I might have been a little more aggressive in putting him on there more often, but I get where he's coming from.
Yeah. Hey, look, I agree with you. It might have been one of those things where if they didn't have that great run at the end of the game, we might be talking about what the hell was Doc Rivers doing. Because, to start the third quarter, you have Danny Green giving up layups and floaters to Harden, and I'm thinking, like, Doc, there's a guy guarding
this guy over there, yeah.
He's guarding Jeff Green. I don't know. I think Danny might do okay against Jeff Green. I'm not too worried about that matchup.
Defensively, and look, I think Danny Green's a smart defender. I think he generally knows what he's supposed to do. He has his moments. Like he had a block against Booker last night in the first quarter, which was pretty nice.
On Sunday. But the first quarter of that game, I thought Simmons and Embiid strung together just some excellent defensive possessions on Devin Booker, with Joe playing a more aggressive style than we're accustomed to. Not quite the full-on blitz mode that they went against Dame Lillard, but like really up to touch, showing willing to live with mistakes on the with some guys open on the backside and really trying to make life uncomfortable for Devin Booker. So they did a nice job in the first quarter, which after that it was pretty bad. And I really, Doc, I don't know who makes these decisions, but in the middle of the second quarter, Simmons had come back into the game, and Danny Green was in the game as well. The Suns it reminds me of like the old Sixers teams. They stagger Booker and Paul pretty good there. Booker was the only one of the two in the game, and Simmons was playing. And Doc said, let's put Ben Simmons on campaign for a few possessions. And let's have Danny Green. I don't know if he thought that first quarter block was amazing or something like that. But
which, by the way, was a rear block because he got beat. Like, we got to say that, too. Yeah.
So I don't know if this was Doc or Dan Burke or Simmons or whoever, but you know what? It's Doc's responsibility. You know what? The idea of Doc, like, making a mistake and me being annoyed by Danny Green guarding Booker for a little while. Like, I'm actually getting mad at Doc taking Simmons off the best player for like 5 or 6 possessions, which just goes to show the makeup of this team. It's not the most versatile unit in the world, right?
No, it's not.
If Doc has to put Simmons on him the entire game, which by the way he should, like that shouldn't happen again. If one-on-one, I thought that was a bad move by Doc. And then is that Bradley Beal is a world-class scorer. I think we can all agree on that. So Doc in the second game where Bradley Beal scored, he did get the 60 in that game.
Yeah.
He did get the 60.
Yep.
So
20 of 35 from the field, 7 of 10. He shot 35 times, 7 of 10 from 3, 13 of 15 from the line. Yep.
And a lot of the damage he did in that game was, like you said earlier, it was against Danny Green, and it was a masterclass of moving without the ball, off screens, taking advantage. You have Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal, and where do you put Ben Simmons? Where do you put Danny Green? And the Sixers have preferred in, I believe, Simmons didn't play the third matchup, but the first two, Russell Westbrook has been a matchup where they have said, we like Ben being more of a roamer. He can play off Russ. He can force him to shoot jumpers, and he can create some havoc in terms of off-ball help and steals and all of these things. I don't think they should do that, is my point. I think for whatever value that is and whatever success Russ can have attacking Danny Green, and he probably can score some layups on blow-by drives against him, more so than against Ben. I think, to me, Beal is like, against the Sixers, Beal is the head of the snake. And if you cut that off, or at least limit it, scarier, I would put Simmons on Beal to start and see if you can limit them.
I would too. And there is something to Simmons being the only one who can physically match up with Westbrook. There's something where if Westbrook gets in the middle of the defense, he can create for others in a way that Beal doesn't, because Beal isn't that kind of a passer. But I still I take a step back and I look at it and I say, what scares me the most? And it is very much Bradley Beal and him getting hot and him getting going like that. I think when you look at it, would I start the game? I would probably start the game with Simmons on Beal. When you start looking at who might defend Beal the most in terms of possessions, I could see this being I could see it Thibault coming in, ending up defending Beal the most because